I'm Diane Rosagnola with REIT. In conjunction with REIT's REIT Week, I'm here today with Bruce Schanzer, President and CEO of Cedar Realty Trust. In recent years, Cedar's strategy has focused heavily on grocery-anchored retail. How has that helped you in this environment?
Cedar's focus on grocery-anchored retail is very much in our DNA. These types of shopping centers have been a core investment theme for Cedar from the very beginning of the company, going back to 2003. When I joined Cedar in 2011, along with our CFO, Phil Mays, Cedar had roughly 140 disparate assets. Since then, we sold just about every asset that was not grocery anchored or in the DC to Boston corridor, and used some of those proceeds to purchase additional grocery anchored shopping centers within our footprint in slightly higher population density submarkets, all in order to refine our focus on just this grocery anchored asset type. I've often felt that in addition to being the core of our investment approach, our focus on grocery anchored properties also allows us to serve a greater purpose. I will often remind my teammates at Cedar that our objective is to do well by our shareholders while doing good for the communities we serve. As the country has tried to survive the pandemic, it's been meaningful to us that the valuable characteristics of grocery anchored shopping centers we identified roughly 10 years ago have come to the fore with strong anchor performance that has allowed our properties to be critical resources to their communities.
Looking beyond grocery stores to the rest of your tenant base, what are the other tenant categories that are performing well right now?
Right now, beyond the grocery stores, as you would imagine, the so-called essential tenant categories are the strongest performers. In our portfolio, that includes banks, pharmacies, supercenter and wholesale clubs, and hardware stores. It also includes office supply retailers, since I'm sure many folks like me have suddenly had to stock up their home offices, and last but certainly not least, beer, wine, and liquor stores. I guess you can say this last category has become more essential as people have had to learn how to homeschool their young children and share their homes once again with their kids who were previously in college or living in the city. On a personal note, I can tell you there have definitely been days during this stretch when I have needed a drink.
How have Cedar's collections been over the past 2 months?
Through yesterday, our April collections are 73%, and our May collections are slightly greater than 71%. We have additional tenants from whom we hope to still get paid, so I would expect those figures to continue to improve. As you can appreciate, this is a very strong result relative to just about every other retail REIT, putting us at the very, very top of the list, depending on the data source. I must say, this achievement by Cedar is tremendously satisfying for me as the leader of the company. I simply cannot overstate how proud and appreciative I am of my teammates for their hard work and dedication to this collection effort, while being understandably distracted with everything that's happening around them.
And lastly, how will the pandemic change the use of real estate in your sector?
To be fair, it's a great question that none of us truly know the answer to. The coronavirus pandemic and all it has engendered represents such a dramatic departure from our prior experiences that it is very difficult to simply state that when the economy reopens, we'll snap back to what we were doing in January of 2020, let's say. However, I personally find it equally unlikely that many of the extreme measures being taken today, such as severely limiting the number of customers in a store, will endure as the dust settles on this experience. Also, we can't lose sight of the fact that people are social beings, and we all want to get back to spending time with our friends, going out to dinners and what have you, and just getting out of our houses. As it relates to retail real estate in general, This pandemic, as we have seen, has accelerated a lot of the secular trends impacting our industry by highlighting and aggravating operational and balance sheet issues that many retailers were facing, and also laying bare the weaknesses of certain retail real estate asset types, such as closed malls, high street retail, and big box shopping centers. The pandemic has also highlighted and put a name to a critical divide that we have always appreciated at Cedar, which is the essential versus non-essential differentiation among retailers. We've seen many of the retail assets that folks thought of as A assets historically being severely challenged because they are generally filled with discretionary consumption goods that are non-essential, and that more significantly continue to be at risk to the channel conflict posed by e-commerce. At Cedar, we have intuitively gravitated over the last decade or so to what we have thought of as essential retail, and that now is being defined as essential retail. That is grocery anchored shopping centers in high population density markets or centers at the heart of a local trade area.
Bruce, thank you so much for your time today.
It really is my pleasure, Diana, and thanks for doing this.
For more from REIT Week, visit REIT.com.